Alrighty, everybody, welcome back on rundown. Every time when I finish walkthrough, I'll give you guys a rundown video on the game. And I don't know why my OBS is looking a little bit blurry, my 1080p content. So I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to tinker with the graphics, with the settings, and been noticing that. Let me see if the audio is working fine. Then the if the sound is working as well. Give me 1 second before starting. This is gonna be a long stream, probably like an hour. Okay, let me see if this is working. All right, perfect. All right, I'll go from left to right, and then I'm gonna do a rundown. If there's anybody joining the stream, if they have any questions, I'll be more than glad to actually answer any of your questions if you have any. Uh, Let me start off by saying that Heroes of Might and Magic. It was a game that started out on the PC, but they made a Game Boy Color port. And there's this website called mightandmagic.fandom. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of work for the Game Boy Color, especially the second Heroes of Might and Magic. There's less stuff. I feel like they kind of did a good job on the first one, but they left off a lot of things, man. They just added the factions and then just ignore everything completely after that. So I'm not gonna talk much about on this website. They just give you the names. Not necessarily the names of the castles, but they just named it farm, plains, forest, mountain. Um, Go figure. So the game came out on April 29, 2000. It's already been 20 years since the game came out, and it's a turn-based strategy game. No wonder. I'll look up more games from this developer. I thought 3DO was the one that did it, but it was actually 3DO that published it. So you always want to look after the developers, not after the publisher. The publisher just gives out the money and the thinking. Look after the developers, the mindsets. Like Doom, for example. The developers are id Software or ID, and the publisher now is actually Bethesda. And I don't know if they're gonna be publishing now that Microsoft bought everything. So it's like a company within a company. But anyways, I'm going a little bit off topic here. For the farm action, which I call this the Haven or Castle faction. On this one, there's a song that you can hear in this. It's a little catchy. Anyways, this class is probably really weak early game. Does kind of not that well late game, but they're the best in mid game. Especially the second month and probably third week. Anywhere between third week of the first month and the second month is where this faction shines. The peasants are the weakest units, and peasant. The good thing about peasants is that they're dirt cheap. They cost 20 gold per peasant, and a lot of the times you can get a lot of them every week. And there are castles that you can actually have, not castles, towns that you can have really have peasants join them. They're called houses, and as you can see, they're scattered throughout the map. They go. They're called thatch huts. You can have some peasants join you. And the stats for the peasants, they're the weakest of the weak, of course. Their attack is 1, defense is 1, hit points is 1, damage out of output 1 on 1. So it's better. It's a really bad idea if you bless peasants. Like, it'll be like a beginner's move or like a noob to actually bless on peasants. And actually, it's kind of funny that I done it before, but you know that bless just increases the damage output for anything that has an input there. So this one's a 1, so that you can't do shit. And then very slow, that means they can only move one step at a time. growth, of course, they have the biggest growth, which is 12. I think it's a little bit more if you increase the town to now if you increase the well, it increases by 3 if I'm not mistaken. So instead of 12, you're gonna get 15 if I'm not mistaken. And let me give you a rundown. The peasant is the first tier unit of the knight. They can also be recruited from peasant huts like these ones that scattered around the map. Um, the thing about peasants, which they can make them really good, is if you have a hero that has really high defense, especially if you get the ultimate artifact that gives you plus 12 defense, that's when the peasants can actually become dangerous. When your hero focuses mainly on defense, you can actually make those peasants actually scary. And especially if you cast haste on them, like especially if you have anywhere between 100 and 500 of them, and if you have 12 plus defense, you have a suitable army of peasants that are actually good. Unfortunately, the power can be good, but I feel like defense is where it shines for this hero. That's why the knight is a little bit more tier and on defense than offense. So as you level up, the first thing that the knight hero is gonna have what's it called? Increased defense. All right, let's move on. Up next is an archer. I always thought these guys look like zombies. I don't know why in the picture. They look like female characters with long hairs here, but that's just me. That's a tier level 2 unit. Not the best, but not the worst. Oh man, I hate these ads. I gotta stop them. So, this one, they have attack power 5, which is not bad. Defense 3, which is, they're very fragile. Hit points 10, which is not the best, but better than some other range units. 2 to 3 damage. You can bless it to make it 3 damage instead of 2, but it's not the best deal. Speed slow, ammo 12. That means after the 12 shot, that means they can't shoot no more arrows. That means you gotta get close and attack. There is melee penalty for range units. I don't know if they mention it here. That means the melee penalty means that they don't do enough damage. I think they do half. So I'm not sure if they do 2 to 3. They're probably gonna do 1 damage if they attack in close quarters with the knife. I know that's how it goes in the PC version, where if you attack, they have the melee penalty. I know there are some units like the druids that have no melee penalty. That means if you attack in close range, you can actually do a lot of damage. That's why druids are one of the best units. And says the archer only shooting troop in the knight army. However, their speed does not make them very desirable for the fast end game army. Yep, the rest of the knight troops are medium and fast. I was not even thinking of peasants here. So the archers will be the ones slowing down the hero. It's a tough choice of whether to take them in the end or not. I usually don't take them after the third month. Usually, like I said, mid game, third week to like the second month, they shine and they tend to actually be good units to harass any hero or any creeps that are very slow, like what's it called? Not the druids, the dwarves, the ogre. Oh, the ogres. Oh, man, I wish I could say the ogres, but the ogres are very meaty, and the dwarves as well. But there are other slow units that are not that meaty, not that meaty. Like peasants, you can actually grind them down easily. The archers are superior to orcs by 2 plus attack skill points and 4 extra shots, which makes it from 8 to 12, but have the defense skill lowered by negative 1 point, which isn't a big deal. I mean, they're range units with their group growth. Archers are definitely worth buying because there is no other knight troop that can kill without his getting into close quarter combat. And of course, I think these archers are better than the orcs. Reason being here. And then the next one's the pikeman. Gotta cut the ads, man. They cost two. I forgot the cost. The thing about let me go back. The thing about archers is that they don't cost that much. There's 150, and then the building, which I think they should have mentioned it here, but it's not in here, is that it costs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1,500 to make. And it's just gold, which is not that bad considering a lot of this faction cost a lot of wood and ore to make. Especially the cavalry is like 20 wood. Like it's like you're pulling my leg, man. You need to really rush to get that wood in order to get those cavalry as soon as possible. So again, these ones are a little bit more expensive. These are better for defense. A lot of times, if you wanna purchase them, if you can get the cavalries early enough, which is really hard, but if you can get them early enough, you can actually ignore the pikemen and just wait and have them as defenders in the castle. I usually do that, or if you want to have the pikemen just to defend any of your archers as well, put them next to the archers. Whenever you have that five layouts, like say you have the archers in the corner over here in the very top, you can have the pikemen next to it so that they have a few movement speed, but they're very good at actually withstanding a lot of the counter attacks, and they're actually not that bad at attack power. The attack power is 5, defense is 9, hit point is 15. Very meaty level 3 units. 15 hit points is not that bad. Damage 3 to 4, which is not bad either. The only downside, of course, is the speed is slow. The growth is 5, which again, this is where this castle shines. The pikemen and the swordsmen, they have very meaty units. Not the fastest, but I mean, in large numbers, they are kind of scary. And it says the pikeman is considered one of the worst troops of its tier. I have to disagree there. Mainly due to other tier troop special abilities. Okay, whatever. For which the pikeman has none. However, it has a defense skill of 9, a value surpassed only by tier 6 creatures. Wow, that is huge, man. That means it has a lot of defense. This defense is not accompanied by a high amount of hit points. While attack skill and damage are somewhat low, bringing down the value of this defensive advantage. When fighting against the farm army, leave pikemen for the end. Killing them is quite difficult, and they do not present much danger with their low attacking abilities. And like I mentioned, if you can actually fetch that ultimate artifact that gives you defense, if you can have that for pikemen and peasants, you got a really scary army, man. Like, they won't take much damage, I'm telling you. They won't take much damage. Up next is the Swordsman. Cost of 50, a little bit more than that of the Pikeman, which is actually one of my favorite tier 4 units. Attack power is 7. Defense is 9, similar to that of the Pikeman. Hit points, instead of 15, it's 25. So these ones are very tanky level 4 units. Damage 4 to 6. These ones are one of the best units for this faction to actually bless. So you want to do 6 damage output. Speed is medium and growth is 4. Swordsman is the worst troop of its tier. Oh my god, who made these? Who made these? But it's also the cheapest. Yes, it's really good in considering they have a 4 growth. They, they can get ugly real quick. An average costing as much as a third creature but being stronger than them. The swordsman can be considered a more balanced pikeman. This is the thing, like these guides of people writing them down, like it's laughable when you are actually consider yourself knowledgeable at the game. Like some of the stuff that I was looking for the Prima's guides for the Doom 64, like they were off with a lot of the secrets. I'm like, you kidding me? That's one not even a secret, or you forgot the secret, or etc. Or mention some other buffoon shit, man. There's a lot of stuff that just baffles you. Anyways, Pikeman retaining the high defense skill, boosting more hit points, attack skill points, and a better damage range, of course. While not very good compared to other creatures of its tier, the swordsman at least comes close to this standard and presents a very good way of obtaining a very early game advantage due to his low cost. And again, the growth is 4 and the cost is not that much, so you can definitely use this to harass a lot of the uh, level 2 level 2 and 3 tier units that are defending a lot of the resources and mines out there in the field. So yeah, these are a must. The cavalry costs 300, which is a little bit more expensive than that of the swordsman, but not by a lot. Attack is 10, defense is 9. Keep in mind that the defense is the same as the swordsman and pikeman. Hit points now went from 25 to 30, not by a lot, just by 5. Damage output 5 to 10. Yep, yep. You want to bless these units all the time. And if you can haste them, you can actually attack from the left area to the right area of the battlefield and make a lot of damage output. Speed is fast, of course, and growth by 3. Sometimes you can actually attack the other units right away. Cavalry is the fastest 5th tier troop and also the worst and the cheapest. Well, I kind of agree in this statement though. Cavalry are not the best level tier 5 units. I prefer the trolls. I prefer the to a certain degree, no. I have to disagree. I prefer the cavalry over the hydras. I feel like the hydras are the worst ones. Even though the hydras are very scary, especially if you have a big number. But a lot of the times I'm a very offensive guy, so I tend to actually do a lot of the siege, attack the siege on the castles, and I need the units to move quick. A lot of times the hydras won't do the job, and considering that the teleport spell is actually broken in this game, like you can't even teleport hydras. So speed to me is better than power. To me, speed is broken in the first years of meta magic. That's why I think the barbarian class is actually the best because they move faster, they tend to rush, and they tend to get things faster. Like might was is better in Heroes of Meta Magic 1 over Magic. Now, Heroes of Meta Magic 2 was 50-50. That's why I feel like the second Heroes of Meta Magic is probably the most balancing one of them all, even though the Necromancer class is kind of broken. The third Heroes of Meta Magic, even though everybody likes it, I feel like if you get a hero with a lot of magic knowledge and spell power, it really pales to comparison to that of Might. So you're usually gonna win 70-80% of battles if you have magic. Unless you're fighting some dragons that have immunity to magic, then you're pretty much screwed, or other elemental creatures from the conflux that have spell immunity. Those are disadvantages, but yeah. Let's see here. Priced at level 4, the cavalry is indeed closer to the 4th tier than the 5th. Being 2 hex sized, the cavalry gets to enemy troops quickly with its fast speed. Bless and Curse strongly affect this creature. Yep, Curse is gonna do damage 5, Bless is gonna do 10 damage, so a good analysis here. Let's move on to the Paladin, which is considered one of my favorite units in the game. And this one costs 600. The good thing about this one, compared to the other ones, it doesn't need a resource. It just needs gold in order to actually purchase them. So that's amazing. Like it sucks to actually purchase one for one I don't know, crystal, one sulfur, one mercury, but on this one you just need 600 gold and that's it. This one has 11 attack power, 12 defense, which is more than that of the cavalry and more so than that of the pikeman and foot and the swordsman. All of those three units had 9 defense if I'm not mistaken. And then the hit points went from 30 from the cavalry of the last unit to 50, which has almost doubled. As if that's not good enough, it also attacks 2 times. So I feel like the damage output for 10 and 20 Like if you can bless this unit, it's probably the best unit to bless. Because if it can do 20 damage, it can do 20 damage again, and then 20 damage again, plus whatever stack you have. So say you have four paladins and you bless it, that's gonna be 8 damage. And then whatever attack skill you have as a multiplier. So say you have a 7 attack skill for hero. I don't know if it multiplies by 0.7. I need to actually look up a video or watch a guide if that's how it works, or is there's like a multiplier by 0 point something. I'm not entirely sure, but I would love to know how they actually calculate the attack skill going with the percentage of attack units. Speed is fast, growth is 2. Now, if you can get, well, of course, you can get 3 of these. I think it increases by 1 if I'm not mistaken, or by 2. So you can get 3 or 4 of these each week, but the well. Paladin is the only level 6 troop that requires no special resources, and that's where it shines the most, aside from the double attack. To be purchased, and also the cheapest in gold, costing like the 5th tier creature but being superior to them. The Paladin can be considered as a level 5.5 troop, just like the Genie, who is about the same strength. The increased growth really starts to count at this creature, where the extra Paladin produced per week. By the way, Genies are at 50 health as well, so and I didn't know they were had the same attack power as well. The increased growth really starts to count with this creature, where the extra Paladin produced per week. Okay, I said that already. Compared to the population of the 6th tier creature, the forest mountain goes halfway to balance its weakness. Now this is where the amazing part says, let me just skip this part. The paladin's defense skill is just like that of the dragon. And then it says, though low is compensated by the double strike ability. So compared to other level tier 6 units, they have a low defense, but they have a double strike ability. However, the enemy will get to retaliate before the second attack. They hit they hit points is low, so it's essential to use the paladin as an attack unit to take the enemy out quickly. Bless and Curse strongly affect the paladin when fighting against the knight. Eliminating the paladin should be the first priority due to their ability to deal damage and their hit points downside. Yep, I have to agree. If you're fighting against the paladin, the first thing you want to see is get your strongest unit and attack it. And if possible, if you can slow it down so they can actually hamper coming in and of course cursing it. So yep, this is pretty much the farm class as they call it here, which I consider the castle. And very expensive for wood. The good thing about this castle faction is that you don't have to use ore a lot. So that one's 20 ore, of course, to make to the castle, but yeah, that's every castle, by the way. And then, of course, the peasants are, if you start off with nothing, if you want to get them, they're the cheapest ones. They cost 200. Archers, I thought it was 1,500. My bad, it's 1,000. Very cheap to make. This is where it starts to get a little bit more expensive. Pikeman, 5 ore, 1,000, but you also need to have the tavern and you need to have a well. So you need to those two things. So initially it costs more than 5 in order to actually get this. Very, very expensive if you ask me. I think it's a total of it's a lot of wood and ore. For the swordsman, of course, 10 wood and 10 ore, very, very expensive. So you need to if you're playing this faction, you need to straightly focus more on getting the wood. Ore is essential as well, but wood is going to be your number one priority. 20 wood for the cavalry. Now for this faction, you can go straight from the this and go straight towards the paladins. If you have the two options of getting the paladins and the cavalry, Get the paladins, dude. They're usually more worth it. The only downside with the paladins, they cost 20 crystals. Same thing with that Cyclops. So if you have two castles, you say you have this one and the other one, think it really well which one you want to have. But aside from that, a lot of people thought this castle was probably the weakest. I feel like it's probably one of the best ones. Like I said, especially medium, small to medium sized maps. That's where this faction shines. And I think they're the best mid game faction. And then the heroes as well, they're the best for mid game and overall in general. So if you're a beginner, this faction is probably the best for you. All right, let's move on. Let's go with the planes and let's go with the goblins. They cost 40, of course, a little bit more expensive than that of the peasant. Let me drink some water. Give me 1 second. All right, for the goblins, they have 3 attack power, 1 defense, 3 hit points, which is a little bit better than that of the peasant. The peasant was all 1, 1, 1. Damage output is 1 or 2, so you can bless these units to make them do 2 damage, or you can curse these units to make them 1 damage. The best thing about these units is that their speed is actually not that bad. It's actually at medium speed, so they can actually, if you have high morale, you can actually get from the beginning starting point and actually harass any of the units on the right side. So that's actually huge. And the growth is actually not that bad either. 10 growth. With the well, that's gonna increase it by 2 or 3, I think. So it's not too far off from the peasants. I would get the goblins any day than that of the peasants. The goblin is a basic first tier creature with no special abilities and good only for bashing. Wow. Talk about talk about harsh words here. Their 3 hit points and medium speed make the goblin a useful troop in the early game. I have to agree there. And allow them to defend orcs and to attack wherever approaches. They're also good at harassing units as well. Damn it. This cough is killing me. Give me 1 second, guys. The lack of defense is obvious and it makes goblins vulnerable to attack. Yeah, that's only good a bad thing. I think they're still more meaty than that of the pixies just by a little bit. Ideally, goblins should attack before being attacked. Yep. Or large number of them make not make it for the first attack. Their large population and low cost due to their effectiveness. So in other words, you gotta make sure you attack one of your stronger units towards the opposing units and make sure they counterattack them. Then you swing with the goblins. We can actually finish the job if you didn't finish the job. One wolf, however, is better investment for 200 gold than 5 goblins. Yeah, well, wolves are actually higher tier units due to its speed and attack capabilities. Goblins are strongly affected by bless and curse abilities. And on the battlefield, if you can actually see a straw hut, you can actually have some goblins join you on the battlefield for free. That means you don't have to pay anything to get a goblin. As opposed to in one of the castles, you have to pay 40 for them. Alright, let's move on to the orc. Probably considered to be the worst range units in the game, I think. Cost 140 gold to make. And they're 3 attack power, 4 defense, 10 hit points, 2 to 3 damage. Their speed is very slow, which, I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're range units. And then the growth. Wait a minute, is this even right? I think they made a mistake here. 28. No, I think they made a mistake here. That's not true, though. The orc is almost as strong as the archer, lacking 2 attack points and 4 shots, which the 4 shots is a big deal, man. Having 1 extra point of defense, which who cares about that? And being cheaper by 10 gold than its human equivalent. The orc is a good shooter to begin with. But if trolls are available, one single such unit is better than 5 orcs due to its ability to regenerate and its high attack skill. If ogres are the barbarians endgame, yeah, well, they forgot to actually include the building. Wait, I'm trying to think if you can get orcs on the battlefield. Can you? Okay, there's goblins and no, I think there isn't. I don't know why I have faint memory that there is. But anyways, the growth is actually wrong. I know it's less than 12, but I'm not entirely sure which number it is. So I don't know whomever made this actually made a mistake. And they should have mentioned they're actually considered to be the one of the worst tier 2 units, if not the worst tier 2 unit for the factions. But let's move on. Wolf. Oh man, this guy can be a little bit scary at times. So this is a tier 3 unit, 200 gold, attack power is 6, defense is 2, hit points is 20, which is not bad for a tier 3 unit, but the only downside is defense. So if your unit doesn't have that much defense, if you're playing like the sorceress class or the warlock class, you're actually leveling up. You're not gonna get getting that defense. And the only way to getting defense is by getting artifacts. Then yes, those wolves are gonna be cutting down like 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 fleece or what was I gonna say like I don't know. You know what I mean. So their th- their hit points is good, but the defense is what makes them die quick. So if your hero doesn't have that much defense, of course they're gonna die even faster. So having that defense on your hero is gonna help make the wolf survive. And then the damage output for the units are 3 to 5. Speed is medium, which is good. I think they're just as quick as goblins, if I'm not mistaken. And the growth is 5. Now for the wolves, they can actually attack twice. That's what makes them very scary. So the wolf can be considered an opposite of the pikeman, having low defense and high attack abilities. True. Their double attack ability assumes that there is a retaliation in between, so try to get the targeted enemy to waste the retaliation on another attack stack, ensuring that the wolf will not get hurt in his weak defense. The wolf speed is very good, so the creature can be kept far away from the battle in order to charge suddenly, ensuring that it will attack first. Yeah, you're forgetting to mention it's one of the best tier 3 units as well. When fighting a barbarian army, try to get rid of the wolves quickly because while presenting a big threat when attacking, they cannot take much damage. The wolf is only fast playing unit, so they are very well suited with the barbarian scouts, who are very good pathfinders on rough terrain. And also, they're forgetting that they can attack twice as well. So the wolves, in theory, are just like the paladins. They attack twice, and if you can bless this to make 5 damage, forget it, man. They're scary tier 3 units. Tier 4 units, which I considered every class has one of those slow units that are very tanky. You want to save them and have them as defense for your faction. For this one, they're 300 gold per ogre. A little bit pricey for tier 4 units. I think the cavalry was 300 gold if I'm not mistaken. So they're expensive. Attack power is 9. Defense is kind of low though. 5. But for whatever the defense, their hit points is 40. Now that's a big meaty unit. Like that is these guys have more health than the cavalry, which is a level 5 unit. Damage 4 to 6. Speed is slow. Growth is 4. They actually that growth is actually not that bad to be honest. And actually these guys, if you can get them to curse, yes, they affect them. But I think the best thing that can happen for the ogres is make sure they don't have them haste spell. Usually the AI almost never hates the ogres, but they do tend to sometimes bless the ogres, but I usually see them curse your units. They're like the AI is always focusing on using spells that affect your units rather than helping their units. I've been noticing. I'm not sure if that's the same thing for the PC, but at least that's for the Game Boy Color. Ogre is the main barbarian unit that makes hit points cheap. The ogre's defense is somewhat low, but hit points compensate well for it. Good in population and low on price. Wait, what? Low on price? Um, I think the price is reasonable. It's not low and it's not high. They're a must-have defending unit. Slow speed makes less versatile, but if planning to have orcs in the army, ogres are the way to go. They're the best kept in front of a shooter. Yep, providing a tough barrier for enemy attackers. That's what I said. You always want to have those meaty, slow units next to the range units as well. Or what I prefer is I want to have them on the castle and actually wait a week after week so they can actually multiply. And in hope they can be something like Week of the Ogre, so they can have +5 growth, or if they can have double the population, that would be even better. So yeah, only problem is the Week of the Plague. Yes, this is my favorite tier 5 units. The trolls, a little bit pricey, man. 600 gold. They're really pricey, but boy, are they worth it. Attack pass 10, defense is 5, which are kind of fragile. Hit points is 40, damage is 4 to 6, speed is medium, and growth is 3. The troll is considered to be the best shooter in the game. Yes, it is. Compared to the second best shooter, the druid. The troll has the same population, the same number shots, and equal defense skills, slightly lower damage, higher attack skill, and hit points, of course. Regeneration. Yeah, you can actually regenerate. I'm not sure if there's an ability that shows they regenerate every turn, but yeah. This trolls melee units tier 2 and 1 units. The biggest weakness is the trolls. Like if they can't finish one stack and they needed that extra damage output, like especially peasants or goblins, they're just gonna regenerate and just gonna have back that stack that they're not gonna lose. When it, well, it's just not a big deal, but yeah, it can help. When attacking trolls, make sure to kill at least one of its respective combat round. Otherwise, the efforts will go waste as trolls regenerate. Yep, as the title says. And trolls are very expensive to make. I'll mention that in a bit. Cyclops, which is considered to be one of the most riskiest units to have. If you want to plan on having a big army of dragons, phoenixes, and paladins, and you want to have Cyclops, you just kind of have to use your brain and make sure you're not attacking your own own units, because it freezes the game. Anyways, it costs 750 gold, which is kind of expensive. One crystal. Attack is 12, defense is 9, hit points is 80. I feel like this is probably like a mediocre unit. It's like for the tier 6. I mean 5, sorry. So in theory, like they're not the worst ones, but they're not the best ones. Like the Paladin's 50, but there's genies that are considered probably tier 5, which is health 50. But I mean, you can say the Phoenix are kind of a middle tier, but I feel like the Phoenix are probably higher tier for level 5. I feel like this one's more mid tier, level 5 units. But anyways, they attack 2 hexes. That's where this unit shines, and they have a probability of having paralyzed attack on units. The Cyclops are somewhat low on damage for level 6, but has a good population and a high High attack. Reasonable hit points, ability to attack two boxes. Hexes, sorry. That's the problem. They can attack your own units. And a nice chance to paralyze the enemy. I think the chance of that happening is 20%, which I don't know if they're going to mention it here. Cyclops are quite low in defense, making him a good target before they can paralyze somebody. If the Cyclops succeeds in paralyzing an enemy stack, it is wise to move on to the next and let the first one stand there for a while, which is, yeah, good. If the second stack paralyzed, move back to the first before the paralyze wears off. Always look for the enemies standing close to each other and beware of the retaliations to endanger heroes' own units. I think the paralyze lasts for 2 turns, if I'm not mistaken. So the third turn they're gonna respawn. I don't know if it lasts for 2 or 3 turns, but I know it's either 2 or 3. So yeah, it's actually really good. And I think the paralyze is 20 or 25%, just like the unicorns, blind, and the dwarves. Magic resistance, I think it's 20-25%. Same thing for this one as well. And then this one, they're very, very expensive and ore. You need a lot of ore. You need to focus on ore, just like the other castle. But this one you focus more on ore. So the den costs 1,000. It's very cheap. The stick cut is 5 wood, 800 gold. It kind of sucks that you have to make wood for these. The archers you don't have to make shit. Goblins are very cheap, 300. On this one, 10, 10, 200, kind of reasonable. But this is where it's very expensive. 20 or 4,000 gold. A little bit pricey, man. Pyramid as well, 20 ore. As if the ore wasn't bad enough already for the bridge. You're gonna need another ore to make. And then crystals, and then 6,000 gold. So this one is very tough to get the Cyclops, only because it makes you need to waste a lot of the same minerals. I think for the farm faction, it was a different. I think it was what? Oh, same wood and wood. Yeah, yeah. You need to focus a lot on ore as the as this faction. This is how the castle sounds. Oh man, this song brings back good memories. I think this one and the next one is probably my favorite themes. Castle themes. Yeah, this one and the other one are probably my favorite castle themes. Let's move on to the forest. This one's actually one of my favorite ones as well. I can't decide from the two which one's my favorite. This one's very catchy as well. Sir, do you want a cup of tea? Yes, sir. Like it reminds me like if I'm in the British monarchy or something. I like it. It's very catchy. Um, actually, no, it's not the forest one. The one that I like the most, it's the other one and this one right here, the mountain one. It's this one or the other one. This one's okay, but it's not my favorite ones. It's the other castle that I mentioned and this one. It's not this one. My bad, my bad. Okay. For this castle, we got the sprites, which the attack is 4, which is kind of well. Defense is 2. Hit points is 2. Damage is 1 to 2. Speed is medium. And growth is 10. They're very, very fragile, but they don't have no enemy retaliation. That's how sprites are dangerous. Tier 1 units. The no enemy retaliation thing, you can actually use this as an advantage to attack a lot of the units like wolves that are not that tanky. Or if you want to attack something like rogues or some units that can do damage, but they don't actually like you want to kill them before they kill you. So like Rogues have no enemy retaliation. Wolves have double damage. Any of the tier 2 range units like the archers and orcs, those are the units you want to focus the most as sprites. There's other ones right off the bat. I mean, of course, the peasants, goblins, mainly the shooters. You want to harass the shooters so they don't actually use the shooting. But that, yeah, you just gotta be very, very careful when approaching something like trolls and maybe the nomads. But yeah, you can actually make a lot of damage to archers and orcs. The sprite is an attack-oriented creature that can deal damage at any point on the battlefield and get away with it. Yep. Its low number of hit points make it difficult to handle attacks. So try not to leave sprites while they can be attacked. Best uses for sprites are to finish off weaker units and to charge uncharged shooters, unguarded shooters, my bad. When not in use on the battlefield, sprites should be kept far away from the action since they can fly into whenever required. They use the sprites later on and to attack the best units without the fear of retaliation. Yep, that's where the tier 1 unit sprites shine. The no enemy retaliation. If they didn't have this, I'll be like, I don't know, maybe they're just as good as the goblins. If not, goblins are just as good because of the higher HP, but not this. Sprites, in my theory, are probably the scariest level 1 unit, even though the centaurs are shooters. So I don't know. It's between the centaur and the sprite, but I still think pound to pound the sprites are probably scarier only because of the production. The dwarves, 200 gold, a little bit pricey. 6 attack, 5 defense, 20 hit points. Overall, their stats are actually really good. Damage is 3 to 4, which is good. But the speed is slow and growth is 8. And they multiply really good as well. The dwarves have the best hit points, damage, and attack from all the second level creatures. The only drawback is its slow speed, which limits what a good dwarf can do. Their magic resistance is unique, which ability dwarves are 25% to be unaffected by enemy spells. Okay, there you go. I knew it was 20 or 25, so that's kind of right. Same applies with the blind and paralyzed from the other abilities from those creatures, making them even tougher creatures. Best used as a defender for elves and druids. The dwarf is only forest creature that has slow speed. It is reasonable to leave the dwarves out of the final army for that reason. The hero will move further on the adventure map. And you can actually hire some of the dwarves from the cabin, as you can see there, which they're really rare. They're not that easy to find. And I don't know if the sprites has their own. No, I guess not. Let's move on to the elves. The elves are 250 gold, which is very reasonable. I feel like these are probably one of my best range units right after the trolls. So I feel like the troll is the best one, and then the elf. I'm sorry, I have a soft spot for elves. Then nomad comes in third. Even though a lot of people may say, "Well, what are you thinking? Nomads are better than elves." I know that, but I like the fact that they look amazing as an 8-bit sprite. They attack twice. So if you have like 100 elves, you can actually bless them. They can be really scary units. So again, attack power is 4, defense is 3, hit points is 15. Very fragile for level 3 tier unit, but they're range units, so it's not a big deal. Medium is speed, speed is medium, and growth is 4. The creature is quite low on attack and damage, but since it can fire twice per round, this weak spot can be ignored. The druid's however a better deal than the elf. So this thing says. So only hire elves if there are no druids available. The one thing is to remember is that elves can only use daggers when an enemy is adjacent and thus loses the ability to attack twice per round. For this reason, yeah, it has that melee penalty, so they're not gonna do sufficient damage. It is recommended to keep elves well defended. Dwarves can do it at the early stages of the game. In later stages, unicorns can fill the guardian role. I agree. And I feel like the Phoenix is probably, I don't want to say the best late game, but considering they have the fastest, uh, like if you focus your hero on magic, they are probably the best class for late game. But they're the best mid to late game. But I don't think they're the best to late game. You gotta really work on your hero. So say if your hero's like level, I don't know, 2 knowledge, 1 attack power, and everything default, then they're not the best class in late game. They are the best class only if you have that knowledge at 5 or more. You have at least that spell power at 3, and you can actually have that first advantage of casting a spell. That's where this shines as a late game. But other than that, if you focus on the units only, they're not the best units for. They're the best because they have the fastest. The Druid and the Phoenix are one of the fastest units in the game. 350 gold per. They're kind of pricey, man. For tier 4 units, very pricey. 7 attack, 5 defense, 25 hit points. Damage is 5 through 8. Speed is fast. I don't understand why they put these guys at fast. I feel like that's kind of broken in my opinion. I feel like why is the druid going first in that of the dragon? It doesn't make any sense, but that's the creator's knowledge, logic, and 3 growth. The druid is the second best shooter in the game after the big purple troll. Big purple. The druid actually has the same defense as the troll and even higher damage. Oh wow, I didn't pay attention to the damage. What was the damage for the trolls again? Let me check. Let me check. Ah, not that one. 4 to 6. Oh wow. They do have higher damage. 4 to 6. 5 to 8. And they also have no melee penalty, but lacks attack, hit points, and even higher damage, but lacks attack. Yeah, it only has 8 shots, hit points, and of course that the troll unique generation ability. Druid is an excellent shooter, but 8 shots can run out of quickly. Druid and elves together make an unstoppable shooting combo. It is true. It is true, especially if you have very slow units like nothing but ogres and like dwarves. If you have a lot of stack of those and cut them in stack, man, the druids and the elves can cut them down, dude. Up next is a unicorn. 500 gold, very expensive. 10 attack, 7 defense, 40 hit points, which is not that bad. Damage is very high, 7 to 14. Speed is medium, growth is 2. The only thing that they're lacking in this one, in my opinion, for tier 5 unit is probably the hit points. But the damage output, you can bless this unit. They can do a ton of damage. The unicorn is able to do the most damage from the 5th tier creatures. Back up by nice defense and hit points. Not the hit points are okay. They're not the best. The unicorn makes an excellent defender for the shooting duel. I thought that cavalry were they had a little bit better stats, but I guess I'm wrong. I guess unicorn's a little bit scary now that I see this. Makes an excellent defender for shooting duel and doubles as great defensive unit. The blinding abilities are great for approaching enemies. If one enemy gets blinded, move on to the next. If the next get blinded too, go back to the first one since it has recovered from the spell sooner. The second stack. When fighting against unicorns, attack them with all units. There's only one retaliation. Yep. And all your troops are likely to be blinded if attacked together. Yeah, so their defense is not that high, so hit points is not the highest, so yeah, you want to focus and cut them down as quickly as possible. So I have to agree. Also, for the cavalry, and I don't know if they actually forgot to mention this for the other faction. I think they excluded this. They forgot, but they get an increased damage output. And I forgot to mention this, my bad. And it didn't mention it here. Like, say you start on the left side, if you move 4 or 5 steps and you hit the enemy, whatever step you move a little forward, it multiplies the damage a little bit. I don't know how much, but I think that only applies to the third Heroes of Might and Magic. So it wasn't implemented on the first one apparently. I could be wrong on this, but I think that's how it is on the third Heroes of Might and Magic. Let's move on to the Phoenix, which is considered to be the best unit in the game for me, that is. Because although they don't have spell immunity, their speed is what makes them scary. If you have a strong hero, you're always going to go first, no matter what, as the Phoenix. They're 1,500, which is kind of expensive, and 1 Mercury. There are 12 attack power, 10 defense, and 100 hit points, which makes them very remarkable units. Their damage output is 20 to 40, so a curse and a bless can be huge on this one. Speed is fast. I think they should have changed this to very fast because they're the fastest units in the game, man. The only drawback for this is the growth. It's 1. I wish it would have been 2. Unfortunately, the Cyclops multiply more. There's 2 of them, and the Cyclops are what? 80 hit points, or they're not too far off from the Cyclops. Not too far off. Phoenix are about half as good as dragons. Yes, because dragons are 200 HP. Fast speed to go first. That is actually huge. If you know what you're doing, that is always very important, especially if you're playing online competitive. I don't know if the her first Heroes of Might and Magic, if there's anything online. I know Patrick was mentioning something about playing locally. So yeah, Phoenix is an amazing thing to do. I wish that 3DO would have implemented an online feature so you could have played together with another player, like stuff like Pokemon and Warlock. But unfortunately, they don't have that idea in this. The game would have been huge, man. Like the real reason why it didn't get a lot of attention is because it doesn't have online. Like a lot of the games that have online feature for the Game Boy Color are probably the top 50 games out there. And unfortunately, this game is probably not even in the top 50 to a lot of game standards because of that reason that I'm mentioning, the online feature. And online feature in the early 2000s and late 90s was actually huge. It was like something new, completely new. So it was being introduced first. So in a way, like it's not online, but you're connecting with one another player and another player. So for a handheld thing, that was like a new thing. But anyways, let's move on. And a fire breath attack make Phoenixes a good unit to tackle enemy shooters straight away. By the way, the attack is also 2 hexes, so that's very huge as well. While the unicorns are getting there to protecting the missile troops, try to get the 2 enemies at once with the breath. Beware that an enemy can make a phoenix retaliate and go both itself and one of your units with the fire breath. Yeah, that's what sucks. It can actually hit one of your units, so you have to be careful on that. So position phoenixes carefully. So like I mentioned, usually I like to put phoenixes at the very top. Or I like to put them at the very bottom. Sometimes, depending on the situation, I put them in the middle. But I usually like to put them on the very top and the very bottom for that very reason. Because if you put them on the second or fourth slide, and if you move some of your units just by, I don't know, by peer pressure or accident, you can actually hit one of your units. So just gotta keep an eye on that. And let's look around down on the cost for this. A lot of times you start with the tree houses already unlocked, but if you don't have it, it sucks that it costs 5 wood to make. So it's a drawback on that. But usually you have the tree house already built. And cottage is 5 wood, 1,000 gold. And archery range is amazing, just 1,500 gold. A little bit more pricey than that of the archer, but it's not a big deal. Stonehenge, it's a little pricey, 10 ore, 2,500 gold, and you also need the mage guild, which costs 5 wood and 5 ore. So kind of pricey. And what I like about the unicorns is that they don't cost 20 of something. So they split the cost here by 10 wood and 10 gemstones. So whenever you wanna get the unicorns on the first week, gotta make sure not to upgrade that level 2 mage guild because it's gonna cost 2 resources, I think, or 3 or something like that. So the first thing you're playing as this class, you wanna hunt down for the gemstones and Mercury, especially Mercury. That will be like the number one thing because they cost 30. As if 20 is not bad enough, 30 or and 20 Mercury. I guess the cost of gold is not that big of a deal, 10,000. It's still kind of pricey though. But yeah, for this, you will always want to keep an eye on where's the Mercury, where I can find it, and we can actually hunt them down quick. Gemstone is a plus, but if you start the game with 10 resources of everything, it's not a big deal. But for the Mercury part, it is a big deal. Alright, let's move on for the next class. And this is actually the one that I was saying, the song, which I kind of like as well. This is the part that I like. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, this part. Just so amazing. Now I take it back. I think this probably has the best castle theme than the other three. And arguably, a lot of people think this one's the best class. Why? Because there's dragons and minotaurs. What's enough to love that? And then the hydras look amazing as well. Uh, at first, when I started playing Heroes of Might and Magic, this was my favorite class. But I started playing the game a little bit more. I have a soft spot for trolls and cyclops, so I tend to like Stronghold a lot as well for the third Heroes of Might and Magic. So I have to say I probably like that one the most. Um, I know I'm weird, but it's just me. 60 gold, they're not that pricey. Attack skill is actually not that bad, 3. Defense is 1. Like I mentioned, if you don't have something like high defense, they're gonna drop like flies. Hit points is not that bad, 5. For being tier 1 units. Considering that the pixies are 2, peasants are 1, goblins are 3, so these are the most tanky tier 1 units. Damage is 1 to 2, speed is medium, which is not that bad. Growth is 8. That's the only drawback is the growth. The other ones are at 10, the other one is at 12, and I think the goblins are also at 10. So yeah, the growth is not that high compared to the other ones. That's the only drawback from all the stats here. The centaur has low defense and hit points and deals relatively little damage, but can be recruited in large numbers in order to bolster the damage of the unit. Well-protected centaurs can reach numbers in the hundreds by the end of a long scenario. It is only ranged creatures in the mountain army, providing some support for the frontline fighters. They forgot to mention the shots. How many shots does it have? Like this is the thing. I feel like this guide is unfinished. I think they're at 8 shots. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're at 8 shots. That means after the 8 shot, that means they can't shoot any more arrows. I can be wrong. I know it's 12 and 8, which is the norm for the first years of Magic. Here comes what makes this class the best class by some people. They have 2 flyers, man. This one's cost 200 gold, which is a little pricey. 4 attack skill, 7 defense, 15 hit points. Damage is 2 to 3. Speed is fast. They can reach on the other side real quick. Growth is 6. Oh shit. Growth is 6. These units, what I do sometimes, and I'm like, this is actually smart. You fly them, you don't attack any unit. You put them in front of the shooters and just wait for them to actually attack your gargoyles so you can use them as a wall. So a lot of times, whenever you attack the shooters, of course, they're gonna use melee penalty. Like if you're gonna harass the druids, that's a bad idea. There's a good chance that the druids are actually gonna kill the gargoyles. So if you wanna just wait for your gargoyles to sacrifice, just place them next to the druids and just don't attack. Now, the only bad thing about gargoyles is that yes, they have a good hit points. Yes, they have a good defense, but their attack power is very low. So they're mostly just to like have them as a base wall to actually harass the shooters and sometimes take down a lot of tier 1 and 2 units as well. It is a fast flyer and an effective counter for enemy range units. It's very useful in early fights, and its high speed means it can also accompany the army later in the game. Yep, not bad of a unit. Griffin, a little bit pricey as well, very pricey. 300 gold, that's actually expensive, man. I think that's how much cost the, what was it? Cavalry cost 300 gold? I don't know, but they're expensive. Like if you focused on getting griffins and the other ones, gargoyles, you can run out of gold. So the main priority, well, I'll mention that in a later. 6 attack power, 6 defense, 25 health points then, not that bad. Damage 2 to 5, kind of low. Speed is fast. Growth is 4. This one's bless. It's amazing, but if you can curse them, it can really think, mess them up real quick. The Griffins is a solid third tier unit. Yep, possessed of a decent attack and defense and a good amount of hit points. They also have the ability to counterattack an unlimited number of melee attacks. This right here is what makes the Griffins very potent level 3 tier units. And a lot of times, people who play this class, they make 3 or 4 or 5 stacks of Griffins and they just attack. Or you can have a big stack of Griffins and make sure to put them in like in the middle of the enemy line. And if they're dumb enough, they're gonna attack them. And guess what? The Griffin's gonna attack every one of them. Especially if it's like tier 1 or 2 units that are weak, especially like the peasants. They're gonna come in and attack the Griffin. Poof. Griffin's gonna retaliate. Bomb. And then comes the other dumb peasant to attack, and boom, the Griffin's gonna attack back. So very strong and powerful unit. The ability is useful when pitted against many foes, but care should be taken to avoid letting the Griffin to be surrounded. Yeah, like the only drawback with this is that it's not very tanky, so you gotta be very careful. Not let the Griffin defend against all 4 or 5 units. Like it's good if you have all 5 units if they're like what tier 1 units, maybe tier 2 units, but you gotta be careful when they're surrounded by tier 3, 4, or 5 units. So something just to keep an eye on. Up next, the Minotaur, which is a very powerful unit, very expensive, 400 gold. Attack power is 9, defense is 8, hit points is 35, damage is 5 to 10, which is really good for a tier 4 unit. Speed is medium and growth is 3. It has a good stats for a 4 tier creature and good for taking an enemy melee unit or defending the hero's archers. Its average speed makes it ill suited to charge enemy archers though. So I feel like the Minotaurs are like basically the what are they called? Gargons of the second of Heroes of Might and Magic Game Boy Color, or the Gargons of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, which is a very strong and dangerous unit in mid game. And I feel like those are like the same equivalent as Minotaurs. Say I have 30 Minotaurs. 30 Minotaurs can really take on par with unicorns. As much as powerful as unicorns are, where they can do 50 damage, the Minotaurs are not too far off from the unicorns. They can go head to head with tier 5 and 6 units. So something to consider about Minotaurs if you want to keep them multiplying and make sure they don't die often. They're very dangerous units. This is where this class falls, is that the Hydras are such good units, but look at the cost, man. That's the reason why I don't buy them. Insanely expensive tier 4 units. Tier 5 units. I don't know. This thing is. Wait, tier 5, 6. Yeah, tier 5. I think they made a mistake in one of the other things that I mentioned. The last one that's tier 5, which is should have been tier 6. But, anyways, 800 gold per Hydra. I usually tend to wait and have them on stack until I get rich. Then I buy a bunch of them. 8 attack power, 9 defense, 75 hit points. Really good. They have probably the highest hit points of tier 5 units. They have really good damage, 6 to 12. The only drawback is the slow speed, growth is 2, and the cost is 800. Those three things are the drawback, especially the slowness. The goal is not that much of a big of a deal if you have a lot of money, but it attacks all hexes. So if you can actually haste these creatures and move them on the other side and make sure you're attacking multiple units at the same time, it's really, really good. Their attack will damage wall-surrounded enemies. It is impossible to retaliate against. They're capable of doing a great deal of damage against enemy forces, but due to the low speed, they might be better for defending the town than company the hero on the map. See what I mean? I mentioned the same thing. Every slow unit faction has one. You want to keep them around to defend. Now, if you can cast this Berserk on an enemy, and if they have a lot of Hydras, which looks scary, guess what? That Hydra is gonna attack the closest unit. So if they're on a unit that's like not a Gargoyle or Griffin, let's just say they're next to a Centaur or next to what's the other one? That's why I don't like to put this next to shooters or next to Minotaurs. They're gonna attack those. They're gonna attack Centaurs. They're gonna attack Minotaurs, except the Flyers. I have three Flyers, two non-Flyers. So yeah, Berserk is probably like the best to target the Hydras. And let's move on for the Dragon, which is the most expensive unit in the game. 3,000 gold and 1 sulfur. 12 attack power, 12 defense, 200 hit points. Damage is 25 to 50. I think enemy spells don't affect it, but you can cast spell bless if I'm not mistaken. So say anything that makes it good, I think it affects it. I'm not 100% sure. I did cast bless on this creature before. Speed is fast, but not as fast as the druid or phoenix. Growth is 1. Dragons are immune to magic, and their fire breath attack will also damage the creature behind their target, meaning they attack 2 hex units. As a flying creature with great damage and decent speed, they are a threat to the army. This reflects to their costs, being a more expensive unit in the game. And these are like a little bit drawings of the dragons, the other heroes of Meta Magic. Oh my god, I forgot about the crystal dragons in this. Look at that. I need to play Heroes of Might and Magic 3 again. Such an amazing game. That's why everybody likes it. I have a soft spot for the second one. I still think the third one's the best, but sometimes I change my opinion. I have the second one as my favorite one. For this class, yes, it's expensive to make a little bit of everything like sulfur, but the first mainly target you want to focus as this class, you want to hunt down the gold mines. Yes, you need ore. Yes, you need gem. You need sulfur. But the main priority for this class, which is expensive all round for everything except tier what 1 units. Even the tier 1 units are expensive. Every unit on this class is expensive, but focus on the gold mines, and you should be good. This is like similar to that of the Tower of Cures of Might Magic 3. A very powerful tower, but a very expensive one. So for the cave, for the centaurs, they cost 500 gold. For the crypt, the gargoyles, 10 ore, which is expensive already. A lot of the time they cost 5 for tier 2, or none, 1,000 gold. For the griffins, 2,000 gold, which is more expensive than the other ones. It was what, 1,500 and 1,000, so kind of expensive to make as well. For the minotaurs, very expensive, 3,000 gold, 10 gemstones. And then for the hydras, 10 sulfur, and then 4,000 gold to make. A lot of times when you ever get a hydra in the first week, there's a good chance that you be have no money to even buy one. So just something just to buy them, just to have them multiply as weeks go along. For the black dragons, it's almost impossible to get on the first week. For the reason is that as if you already spent 10 sulfur, you need another 20 just to make them. And then 30 ore, and then 1,000, 15,000, sorry, gold. That's 5,000 more than that of the Phoenix. And yeah, if you would tell me which class before I move on, I'll tell you guys. The planes is considered to be the fastest unit for rushing, especially for heroes. Like you got very good offensive units, like goblins are fast, orcs are kind of okay, not the best. Wolves are really good, so if you focus on these 3 units, you can do a lot of damage. And then mid game farms, mid to late game, the forest one, this class, and then late game, the best class is this one right here. But this one, the only way it could be the best in late game as well is if you have a strong hero. And yeah, let's move on to this player's guide. Um, Here's a Might and Magic. It was made in 2000 by 3DO Company. Well, published by 3DO, wasn't made by them. Recruit valiant heroes, raise mighty armies, and create magnificent castles in Heroes of Might and Magic. 3DO's mystical strategy game for Game Boy Color. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger so I can. The goal's simple: conquer everything in sight. The task is difficult enough, but gather in for your courage, for their mighty warlords arise to challenge you, and they will fight to the bitter end. Before you can conquer anything, you must prepare, and so you gather resources, find champions, build an army, and construct fortresses. You start small, with single hero and his or her modest army. When you have enough money, improve your stronghold, find more heroes, better your armies, and increase your land buildings. Holding, sorry. Only then will you be ready to fight and conquer. The goal might be simple, but reaching it certainly isn't. Then there's a picture of the rundown of the game, more or less what it is. I thought this was like a real-time strategy game, like Warlock. But when I played it, I couldn't understand jack shit. And a lot of times when games I don't understand, if I really put effort in understanding it, it becomes so amazing and fun that to the point that I won't stop playing them. That's why I've been getting a lot of games lately on Steam and GOG and games that I don't understand, but I need to really learn and they'll become better. So this page is amazing. I remember looking at this page, and this is what made me get into this game because of this page. I remember making a notebook and I draw all of this, and then I tried to make a card game out of this as well. Many different creatures live with the lands you're exploring. You can add areas such as armories, cathedrals, or towns and castles to produce creatures that you can recruit for your armies. Those creatures will also defend the towns, even if there are no heroes around to lead them. Archers. Each archer can take 12 shots, but with only 10 HP, you might not get to take them all. Cavalry is the fast and deals plenty of damage. It has 30 HP and is a step up from a swordsman. Centaur. The hoofed one has medium speed, low attack power, and only 5 HP, but it's extremely cheap to recruit. Cyclops, the one-eyed wonder, has 80 HP, good attack power, and 20% chance of paralyzing enemies. Okay, there you go. There's a 20% chance. So that means that some creatures have 25% chance, some have 20%. I knew that the 20% was there. Um, so some creatures, I forgot which one was it. I know I had it on my stream, it had the 25% chance. I don't know if it was the unicorn or the druid. I forgot. The not the druid, the dwarf. There you go. Anyways, let's move on. The dragon. Oh man, I can barely see this one. With 200 HP, the dragon is the thickest skinned warrior. Its attacks are powerful, and oh man, I can and it's immune to magic. Yep, that's where the dragons shine. So you want to have in late game, you want to have all stacks of dragons, like say 5 stacks of dragons. You got a level 4 spell, sorry, like Armageddon. Forget about it. You're gonna annihilate everything. Or a level 3 spell like Storm, like you can do a bunch of damage. The Druid, the fast Druid has 25 HP, but it can take only H medium powerful shots. Now the thing about this guy is that the speed is really fast. I think it is faster than the dragon. That I know, but I think it's probably the Phoenix, the fastest, and I think the Druid is probably I'm not sure if it's number 2 or number 3, but it's on the top 5 fastest units in the game. I know the Griffin and what was the other one? The Gargoyles are really fast as well. So I don't know how a shooter is fast. That's what makes this class a little bit more broken. So let's move on. The Dwarves, slow and somewhat resistant to magic. The Dwarves has 20 HP and low attack power. Yeah, I think they have a 20% or 25% chance of resistant to magic. So say you cast a lightning bolt on a dwarf, that means it's not gonna sometimes hit. It'll have like a barrier. Like I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, there's a chance that it can actually deflect a lot of powerful spells. So if you're gonna cast a spell, just make sure it's not targeting the dwarf, because he can actually deflect that. Um, I think a meteor you can get away with it. So if it's not targeting the dwarf, it can actually hit multiple areas. Yeah. But if you're casting something like fireball or lightning bolt at it, no, maybe fireball, no, lightning bolt for sure will might deflect it. Elf, the slight shooter can take 2 shots per round, but they won't do much damage. It has 15 HP. Yeah, but the two shots is what makes it shiny, like where it shines. That is. Gargoyle, the wing grotesque is exceptionally fast, but its attack are very powerful and its HP is only 15. I think they're probably the second or third fastest unit in the game. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I know for the fact that the Phoenix is the fastest unit. Orcs. The sluggish orc has low attack power and only 10 HP. Is best used as a cannon fodder. Wow. Interesting. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I always thought these guys looked like bearded drunken men back in the day. Like, what's the wrestler? Andres looked like a drunken Andre the Giant. Anyways, the slow ogre has 40 HP and it's best in battles with other plotting creatures. It's good for backup. That yes it is. Nomads or nomad, my bad. Use a nomad for fast attack to finish off already weakened. enemies. It has 20 HP. Nomads, I wish I could have a rundown stats on the whole stats for Nomads. I will do this for the PC version. I think it has the same stats as that as the PC version. The only problem with Nomads, you can only hire them as neutral units, so that means you cannot hire them in castles. Minotaurs. A Minotaur is a medium powerful creature across the board with 35 HP and decent attack abilities. Yep. Wait, it doesn't have abilities with decent attack. Hydra, attacking in all directions. Hydra is a fearsome. If slow foe, it has 75 HP and its enemies won't retaliate. Wait a minute. So it has no enemy retaliation as well? What the? I did not know that. Now that I think about it, the Hydras are actually very scary. So aside from attacking all hexes, it has no enemy retaliation as well. Damn, that's actually sick. Griffins. Its unlimited retaliation ability, combined with its 25 HP, makes this creature a solid choice. So say you have Griffins next to the Hydra and you're gonna attack the Hydra at the Griffin. That means that the Griffin ability won't trigger. Why? Because the Hydra has that no enemy retaliation. Same thing with the Phoenix or the Rogue. That means if they're gonna attack, they won't actually do um the Griffin won't trigger because they have the no enemy retaliation. And there's only three units that has that. The Hydras, the Rogues, and the Pixies. Goblin. A Goblin may ask to join you. With its low attack, power, and 3 HP, it won't be much help. Yeah. Ghosts are like the only units that I think in this list you cannot hire. You can hire any unit like the genie, the nomads that you can hire in the castle. But for some reason, I just have not seen a way to actually hire ghosts. Ghosts can be the most dangerous units in the game, depending on the situation. So say you have 200 peasants, right? Well, what if that ghost attacks those 200 peasants and kill them? That means if they have 10 ghosts and they attack 200 peasants, that means now there are not gonna be 210 ghosts. As if that's not bad enough, it has a good amount of HP. I don't know what its attack power, but they're very tanky units. Any kills a ghost makes will turn into a ghost. Two ghosts have two ghosts. Wait, two. Ghosts have 20 HP and low attack power. Okay, there you go. Probably have something like one or three attack power or something like that. But if they actually stack up, forget it. You're probably gonna lose the battle if they multiply quick. Genies. It's a slight chance that a genie attack will have the size of an enemy unit. The genie has 50 HP. Huh. It means that the attack power is okay, I guess. I'm not sure what they mentioned there. Paladin, a fierce warrior. The paladin has 50 HP and a great attack power. It's also attacked twice per round. Peasants. I always thought it was a shovel. The slow, weak peasant has only 1 HP, so don't count on it to win many battles for you. Phoenix. If you can afford a Phoenix, get one. It's 100 HP. It's quite high, and its attacks are very powerful. The pikeman must get close to its enemies to attack, and it has 20 HP, and its attacks are relatively weak. The rogue. Enemies can retaliate against the quick rogue. It has only 4 HP though, so it won't last long. Yeah, so they drop like flies. They're like sprites, but the only problem is that they cannot fly, so they can reach their targets. But you gotta be very careful. I think you need only one hex to reach from the left side to right side. So if you increase that moral and they go against the another round, they can definitely reach their target. Sprite. The Fluttering Warrior is not strong and has only 2 HP. Wait, what? And only. Wait, it has only 2 HP. Okay. Enemies can retaliate against it though. That's what makes it dangerous. Swordsman. The Shielded Warrior has strong attacks, medium speed, and 25 HP. It's expensive, but a good buy. Somewhat expensive. Troll. The expensive troll. Okay, these ones are expensive. Has 40 HP and mediocre attack power. It does generate, however. Unicorn. Enemies may be blinded by the mythical unicorn. It can take a fair amount of damage with its 20 HP. Wolves. The quick wolf has 20 HP and it's attacked twice per round, giving a medium attack power more bite. Okay, let's move on. You start, I mean, you start very little. So your first challenge is to build up your towns, armies, and resources. To be patient, that will take a while to earn though. Money to improve your towns will produce more creatures for your army. Explore the lands around you that have resources and gain experience. Try not to fight anyone that say something in the first 2 weeks you will lose, something like that. Anyone during the first weeks? I think that's what it says. I'm not sure. I can't make what it says here. Explore. Try to recruit 3 or 4 heroes and spread them out in different directions. I tend to actually hire probably two, sometimes three, but I think four is asking it for way too much, especially on small to medium maps. Maybe large maps, depending on the situation, I will probably hire four. Like, say, if I start a class with a warrior, I tend to want to hire another warrior class so they have the same units, so I can actually give the stack to my original hero so I can actually make it strong and actually win my battles. Other than that, like if I see nothing but barbarians, if I have a warlock, like it's not gonna be any help. But yeah, the scouts, whichever scouts you want to have the most, of course, is gonna be the barbarians because they have the basic pathfinding, so they tend to move a little bit better on harsher conditions, and I think they probably move a little bit more than the other class. I could be wrong on this one, but and it says keep track of your enemies and the location of resources so you can return them as needed. Construction. You can build something in your towns and castles every day. As long as you have the proper resources, build the training centers that produce fighters first, then the well, the mage guild, and finally the tavern. Provisions. Farmers and the mill keepers will pay tribute to a hero weekly. Yep. Make sure it's hero that reaps the benefits of the townspeople hard work. Yeah, so each week I tend to have a scout next to those windmills or next to the other one, the water mill. The water mill always gives you gold no matter what. The windmill gives you two of anything random. So sometimes they give you two crystals, two sulfur, two of whatever. So just those two things to keep an eye on for the provisions. And then times two, wait, what? Times two, I guess it says. You can save time by walking a wizard and a warrior side by side. The heroes will complete each other. You won't have to track as much. That's huge, and also that's how you can only exchange artifacts and units as well. Sometimes exchanging artifacts is very important as well. Free forces. Remember of the dwellings, where goblins, peasants, and other creatures who have offered you to join you residue and return every week for more recruit. Now, if there's that week of the plague, I think it does affect the population for those resources. So it's a week of the plague. I think there will be zero if there's already zero in it. Something for you to keep an eye on. And then use caution. Try shit. I can't make out what it says. I can't see what it says. It's too white. I'm sorry, I can't see what it says. Budget. Budget your money specifically near the end of the week. You will be able to afford more soldiers as they replenish at the beginning of each week. Yep. I don't know why they use white when this thing was kind of whitish. They would have used another color. And these are all the spells. They don't have dimensional door as I mentioned in one of my videos. So they have anti-magic, protects its troop from all spells. Armageddon inflicts 50 times the spell power on all troops. So say if you have 10 spell power, I think that's 10 times 50. I think Berserk sends troops to attack the nearest troops. Amazing spell, especially if you use it against the Hydra. If they're on siege mode, that is. Bless makes troops inflict maximum damage, a good spell. Blind renders troops capable of retaliating only. Of retaliating only. That's not true. So blind also renders units from even attacking. Um, or even doing anything. It's so similar to blind. So I don't know why it says that. Cure lifts negative spells from friendly troops. So another cure is just like an anti-magic. If you use anti-magic on top of a spell, it's basically another cure. Curse causes troops to inflict minimum damage. Very annoying spell if they use it against you. The spell magic removes active all spells on all creatures. Sometimes you have this spell all, so this spells all of the battlefield, but you gotta use one of the shrines in order to get the dispel all. So it's very, very rare to get that. Almost never you don't find it, but there's some maps that have it. Fireball takes 10 times the spell power in certain troops and affects only the regions that are like surrounded. Like I think it affects 2 or 3 hexes around it if I'm not mistaken. Haste, sorry. Troops become faster. Lightning Ball, which is one of my favorite spells, inflicts 25 times the spell power on one troop. And then my favorite spell, the Meteor Shower, inflicts 25 the spell power on certain troops. So you can actually attack 3 hexes instead of one. So you can actually attack 3 units if possible. So I mainly target low units like tier 1, 2 units or throwers. Any unit that shoots arrows or throws like I don't know like trolls, nomads, stuff like that. Paralyze sends troops from stops troops from retaliating, also stops troops from moving, and stops troops from attacking as well. Similar to blind in that sense. Protection gives troops 3 defense points. Well, I didn't know how many points it is. Now I know. 3 defense points. So I guess protection is probably good with units that you want to last them a little bit longer. I usually like to put these on meaty units like ogres, hydras. If you can cast this on a low defense unit, it's not a bad idea. But consider this, they already have low defense and low health. So you're gonna cast something like protection on them. It's a gamble. Like not a bad choice. Anything protection is good. I think protection with against probably like any protection on any unit is good except the peasants. The peasants is probably the worst unit you want to use. You don't want to use protection on peasants. You don't want to use bless on peasants, and you don't want to use curse on peasants. So other than that, you can use protection on most anything. But those are the mainly units you don't want to use it much. Like maybe protection wouldn't be a bad idea with peasants. But I mean, you're better off wasting that magic on some other unit, unless like that's not the only unit you have and you want to use it against. You want to use it on the peasants, then go for it. It's not a bad choice either. Resurrect. I think this is probably like one of the most broken spells in the game. Brings 50 dead soldiers back to life. I'm not sure if it's 50, but considering if you have tier 6 units like phoenixes, And say you have 10 phoenixes, right? Well, no, let's just give a more reasonable amount. You have three phoenixes and one died. Then you cast resurrect. Now that two is gonna come back to three. And then there's another phoenix that dies, and then you're gonna cast another resurrect, and that two comes back to three. So resurrect spell, I feel like it's probably the most broken spell in Magic the Gathering for the Game Boy Color. Slow makes troops only move only one space and act last. Storm inflicts 25 the spell power on all troops. Similar to that of the Meteor Shower, but except it attacks everybody. Turn Undead destroys one troop of undead creatures. And they're forgetting Teleport. I think Teleport is probably a glitch. They give it to you depending on what triggers it. You're not supposed to use um, Teleport. I think Teleport is an unused magic. So if you use Teleport, you're gonna have your game freezed up. So just something to consider. And magical mid game. Continue your recruiting and building and try to secure several castles. Send your heroes out as far as you can, but remember to keep some near your castle, at least until they have strong enemies. It may seem a bit repetitive, but remember that your enemies are building their forces and strengthening their castles, so you have to do the same. If you lose a castle to an enemy, go back to the castle the same week it has attacked and try to take it back. The troop will be weakened in both strength and numbers from the last battle, and it will be much easier to defeat them. You also know what to expect from the defending army, and be ready with the right troops to fight it. Now, on the Heroes of Might and Magic 3, I'm not sure if the first one on the PC has this. Like, say the AI actually defeats your castle, you only have 7 days to beat it, to conquer a castle, reconquer back the castle, or take any other castle. If you don't, you will lose the game. On this one, it's annoying that you have to destroy all heroes in order to win. Unfortunately, that's a little bit more time consuming to win. And then first strike makes you think you're ready. Attack a weak enemy such as those guarding the mines and other creatures. You will learn the strengths and weaknesses of your army. And it says gaze gazebos. As you add more heroes to your forces, make sure to stop the gazebos your other heroes have already visited. The knights within those gazebos will raise each new hero experience points by 1,000 points. All heroes can visit the gazebos to gain new points. I keep forgetting to have other heroes join it. I usually just do it on my main hero. Keep close. If you can keep a few of your forces just a day's walk from each other, you can trade troops between them, making it much easier to defeat enemies. Try not to keep all of the power within just one hero. Yeah, I tend to keep my power in one hero. The AI is not that smart, so gather troops, resource, and funds as quickly as possible by keeping track of their various locations. Try not to waste any of your enemies. Or try not to waste any turns, or your enemies will overtake you. Okay. Cast a spell. So what? So uses. Okay, sorcerers and warlocks have spell books, and other heroes can buy them. Yeah, like the knight and the barbarian class. Mage Guild is one of your towns. I can't say what it says. One hero has a spell book. He or she can cast a spell from your travels and your battles. Upgrade your mage as you earn the spells. Now they don't mention this in this player's guide, but in order for you to learn the cast the spells, you gotta make sure you're in the town, and you gotta make sure you visit the castle, and you gotta make sure you open the mage guild in order to see which spell you have If you don't those two things by visiting the castle, those three things, staying there, which is the second one, and then third, opening the Mage Guild, and then make sure you end your turn, because if you move, you won't learn the spell. You have to be waiting there at the castle in order to actually learn it. A lot of players, including a lot of players that actually are knowledgeable at the game, and they think they know everything, they don't know that simple logic of actually learning the spells. And that's how you can actually get their high score, because spells can help you tremendously, especially something like Butte Towns. That's a level 2 spell. You want to get it as soon as possible so you can actually be where the enemies are at. Okay, I said that. Diversity. When selecting soldiers for your castles and towns, try to have few of each type of warrior. For example, 3 archers and 3 pikemen will defend your castle. Longer than 6 pikemen because they will enemy has to attack each type of warrior separately. Whatever. Protection. If you see an enemy lurking near one of your castles or towns, you may want to recruit a hero, specifically for the area if you have enough resources. And then faction. No, wait, what? Ra ration your resources. It is five to have a. It is fine to have a lot of heroes as long as they are relatively well equipped. Your heroes are all needed troops, and so does your town and castles. Don't sacrifice one of the others. Make sure each hero has enough troops for battle he or she makes then a day's ride away from the nearest castle or town. Now, every hero can only have a total of 8 or 10 artifacts, if I'm not mistaken, so they can't have an unlimited artifacts. The heroes all each gain independently in experience points. So if one hero has 10 spell power, the other hero starts at 1 spell power. Like you can't have those same ones with the same strength. Also, I think you can only have like 6 or 8 heroes in the whole map. So I think you can't hire more than that. I think it's 4. If it's not 4, it's 6. If it's not 6, it's 8. It has to be one of those 3 numbers. But I forgot which is the right number. Conquering the hero, the most difficult part of your mission when you are ready to attack. That enemies can take. Wait, they're holding their. I don't know what it says. Enemy towns and castles are well defended, and you and your enemies will have been strengthening their defenses. Your enemies will start to break down your buildings as well as your attention will be pulled in many different directions. Make sure your heroes, towns, and castles will have plenty of warriors to defend them. I think this is. I'm not sure what it says here. Attack enemies. If you click on the menu, you'll see more or less how many heroes you have, how many of the castles, how many of the towns you own. Towns give you 500 gold, if I'm not mistaken, or 250 gold. Castles give you 1,000 gold. So you say you have 2 here and you have 1 here. That means you're gonna have an income of 3,000 gold. And then the whatever mines you have as well, which is gonna be the wood, mercury, ore, sulfur, um, crystal, gemstone, and then the gold mine, which is gold. And then how many resources do you have right now? Attack your enemies preferably before they can attack you. You don't want to be stuck in the endless loop, taking one castle from an enemy on your turn only to lose a castle on their turn. Yeah. Surrender when you find yourself in a battle that you obviously can't win. Your best option, if you can afford it, it is to surrender. Now, if you click on surrender, that means you have to surrender at whatever gold the NPC is attributed to. A lot of the times, the computers on the Game Boy Color, 99% of the time, will not surrender. Either they die or they retreat. Those are the only 2 options they're going to give in to you. A lot of times when they retreat with all the troops that are lost, but they can be rehired again on the castle. That means if they have an artifact, That means you can't conquer their artifacts until you have killed them. With surrender, that means you can take some of your troops back. If you say, man, I don't want to lose my 10 trolls, and I think I can't win this battle, we'll surrender. And if they can, we can surrender at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gold, then it's not a bad decision sometimes. A lot of times you want to surrender, and only if you want to scout and you get the enemy. If the enemy managed to get you as you were scouting, then yeah, you want to surrender. You have to recruit the hero again, but he or she will keep the surviving creatures of his or army. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that either. Oh, fudge. I clicked that by accident. Now to find, here's a meta magic again. I think it was. Oh man. I have to click this by accident. Oh, it's Warlock. Nice. I'm gonna do that. Oh, they gave a rating of 6.7 for that game. I'll show you that page. I forgot about that. I'll give you my rating after everything that I've done for the game because I actually completed everything. Which one's the page? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Can't believe the review. They have it on a different page. And attack. When you come soon into a castle or a town, it's not defended. You will automatically conquer and take it as your own. Yeah, so if they don't have any defenders, you can actually just take it. You can even draw troops from its supply. If you can't afford to defend it, abandon it. Outside info. What thing? Base your best heroes in the castle furthest away from your enemies. The remote castle will probably stay safe even if the for a while to explore and this is attack other areas. Defenseless. Yeah, I can't make what it says. Make more magic. It says Heroes of Meta Magic is a challenging strategy game. It has enough random elements to make a different experience every time you play. The game has 3 save files and over 30 different scenarios of varying degrees of sizes and different, making it the possibilities almost endless. As you become accustomed to the other exploration and resources management aspects of the game, you can try to work out your own strategic build for buildings up armies and knocking down enemies. If you remember to balance your own might and magic, you should come out winner. They put a mushroom, what the heck? And let me go back to that page where they had the review. Wait, what? Man, I missed this time. Oh, they have a review of all the games. Oh, nice, 8.2. Alright, for Here's a Meta Magic. Here's a Meta Magic. The 3DO gets medieval by bringing an RPG a hit RPG to the Game Boy Color. I think it's more of a turn-based strategy, but anyways. Graphic. The heroes aren't necessarily tiny. You basically moving your party along the spaces on an invisible grid, and while you looking isn't flashy, it's descriptive enough to convey its medieval aesthetics. Play control. M&M is the Game Boy Color debut for a long-running RPG series, which relies on turn-based adventuring. Once you figure the menus, getting around and getting by will the second nature. Game design. During your travels, you will encounter heroes who will want to join your party. Wait, what? I don't know if that's even a mechanic in the game. Yeah, I don't think that's a mechanic in the game. Not in this one, that is. Maybe in the other Heroes of Might and Magic, but not in this one. Who you meet, who you want, who you recruit, how you raise your resources, and how you fortify the forces change things every go round, making Might and Magic a strategy game to come back to again and again. Satisfaction like a good game of chess, M&M forces you to think a few turns ahead, making every step of the way like walking on eggshells as you hope your opponent's turn won't botch your next move. With such a setup and other 30 battle scenarios to fiddle with, M&M makes for a replayable role-playing experience. Sound. The music is impressive, suitable sounding like minstrels who wandered off of a Renaissance fair. Comments. Sanja, a good scaled down version of the PC game. Chris, the time function and need to do things by certain dates had a nice element. Jennifer, even the easy levels are huge. Huh. And this is pretty much the features. One player. I wish it was playable to play with another player. Game Boy Color exclusive. Over 30 scenarios? No, it's just 30 scenarios. The graphics, they give it a 6.8. Wow. The controls 6.4. Game design 7.4. SAT, I don't know what is that. 6.8. Sound 5.2. And these are the ratings for the other people. Chris rated 7.6. Scott rated 7.7. Sanja and Jennifer, how dare you, both of you, rated a 6.6 and a 6.0. And Jason rated a 6.4. So it's not bad ratings. I will give it, after playing it and really seeing everything, knowing that the summon boat is broken, can summon boat on all the maps that you want, knowing that maps are unplayable. Bayou, it's almost unplayable in some areas, but it is very doable in beating the computer. And considering there's no online feature and there's no campaign, which was excluded, and there was some spells that were excluded. The first Heroes of Might and Magic, which is not the best, because the third one is the best one by many people. That one's like a 9.4. This one is not even an 8.4, which is the PC version. I would probably put the PC version probably at 8.1. This one, with all fairness, after I played and overviewed everything, I'm probably gonna give it a 7.4, man. I was gonna scale it a little bit higher, but the reason why I don't is because the game is addicting. The game is fun and very underrated, but again, there's other factors that are glitchy. Also, if you get the Resurrect spell, I don't know how it triggers. You can actually freeze the game. If you got the Cyclops to hit one of your units, you can freeze the game. Sometimes if you click some of the units, you can actually gain access to one of the castles by accident. And I keep clicking exit by accident, and I never managed to buy anything. But aside from that, like it's not that big of a deal. It's just two levels that are unplayable. I need to test it more if I can actually manage to beat him, like Patrick said. But I'm not done with this game. Like I mentioned, I as an overall gave it, what was it, 7.4? So I'm gonna put that in my comments. The game is a 7.4, and this is the commercial for the Game Boy Color. Those basically are the
America
colors.
the beautiful. Game Boy Color. Get into it.
And this is the seller that I put on the link. A lot of this Game Boy stuff has gone up in price insanely. It's kind of expensive, but this guy, I can tell you right off the bat, he sells really good products. Not authentic products from Japan, they're from China, but the products are actually not that bad of a condition. Um, I might probably buy a Game Boy Color next year for him. Considering that in Texas and back in 2021 in December, wait, not December, February, we had a outage for almost a week, and a lot of my handheld stuff, my 3DS, my NDS, my Nintendo Switch, all the batteries, they all drained, man, in the span of 5 days that we didn't have light. And I can tell you, I wish I would have had a backlit mod for a Game Boy Color. I do have a Game Boy Color, but it's not the best condition. The select doesn't work. And the backlit mod is what makes the game brighter so you can see while you're playing in the indoors if there's no light. If I have like one of those lights, but oh man, like a backlit mod, once you have it enabled, you'll never want to go back. It looks amazing. And the brightness for the backlit mod that this guy uses is just as bright, not as the Game Boy Advance and the NDS one, but as bright as the Game Boy the not Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP or yeah, the Game Boy Advance SP that they made with the backlit mod more brighter, where the backlight's in the back, not in front, because they made a backlit mod for the Game Boy SP in front, and it's not as bright as the ones that have it in the back. So they look really, really bright. I'm telling you right out the bat. I recommend this guy now. Messaged this seller. I bought this item back in 2021 for 154, and then with taxes and everything was a 159. Now it's 179, man. I checked the price earlier this year in January or February. He was at 165, 167, something like that. He increased the price by like $10, and now they increased it by $20. And I'm not gonna say it's because of whatever happened on Eastern Europe earlier this year, but it's like if the prices on Europe get expensive, it affects North America and it affects Europe, it affects South America, it affects Africa, it affects Asia. So it's like a domino effect that affects everybody. The prices aren't that very sticky. They say that the food prices are sticky, that some of the market prices are sticky. They're not sticky. Nothing that I've seen has been sticky. A lot of the prices in the past 12 months have increased. The only thing that I think is kind of sticky is probably the canned food, but almost nobody buys canned food in small numbers. They always buy it in huge numbers, so they buy food that they can actually have and store for long periods of time, or people that just want to save up and buy canned food. But I recommend this Game Boy Color. Now, I don't know which color I want. I'm either between the Game Boy Color one, which is the colorful one, or the clear blue. I don't know if he has colors, and you can choose the bottoms as well. There's other features he has, like this one, for example, is a little bit more pricey, so it's 179. This is the one that I think I want to get because I like how the Jigglypuff and the Pikachu looks. And then he has other ones, like this one's the color that I have, and this is the one that I think I might buy. And then the green kiwi, that's the one that I bought for my brother. And then there's the sober, the watermelon. This one is alright. The green one. We used to have this one and the purple one. And then there's the golden one. I don't know if he has a placement for that. But yeah. Oh, I also bought an Game Boy Advance SP from him. I think I bought one or two from him. I know I bought one of these and they were like much cheaper, but it's been increasing the price lately. And because of the market, look at that. This is proof. I paid 159 back in March 16th of 2021. And I bought this right after the light went out, so I'm like, you know what? If my brother had this, and because he had a bunch of AA batteries, he would have days to play this. Now you're saying, man, well, I don't want to collect all the Game Boy Color cartridges, which, in all essence, I'm not gonna um, promote this. That's why I'm not putting it on the link. But it's your only option. eBay had it at one point, but eBay took everything down last year in 2021, and that will be probably 7 games in one. This cartridge, by a lot of people, say it's one of the best ones. The only one is this one's from sold in France. There's different colors. There's a clear, there's a red, there's a black. I'm not sure if the black is in the same one as the other ones, but I will go with this one that looks like that. And I wouldn't recommend stuff like 369 in one. And the thing about getting a lot of these Chinese copies that are good is that some Chinese knock off other Chinese products, and those Chinese that are knocking off other Chinese products, those are the ones that you need to be careful. Those are the ones that make these type of copies that are not that good, and a lot of people don't like them. Like I have this copy, and I can tell right off the bat it's not worth it. I don't have this one, but by a lot of people and by watching videos, it is very recommended. It's basically Never Drive in a nutshell, but Game Boy Color. And then there's this guy that I mentioned from China that is selling the knockoff copies, which I mean, I would be very careful in buying from him. Because again, maybe the battery doesn't last. I need to open it up and have it. But and then there's the other ones. There's other scalpers that are selling it really expensive. Which I mean, in all fairness, this is sold for like 40 to 55 bucks in the market in China. And you saw this guy selling it well, a little bit much more expensive, like 61. That's kind of reasonable. He's not making much profit here. Probably getting like 5 or 10 bucks of profit at most. But this guy wants to make double the profit of what he bought it for. So I don't know. I don't like those type of people that want to take advantage from the people. But yeah, I'm gonna cut down the video. Hopefully this was a good rundown of my Heroes of Might and Magic Let's Play. Almost took me 8 years to complete. And again, I have to thank Patrick for actually motivating me to actually beat it. He was the one that's from time to time would message me on my channel that when I'm gonna make more videos, stuff like that. So it was like a wake up call. You know what? I need to come back and make these videos. And he had a request. It took me years to actually complete it, but I did it not only for him, but I did it as a completion rate because nobody on YouTube has the complete videos out there on YouTube, and I was the first one to have it. And I'm gonna do the same for other games as well. Give shout out to love to a lot of other games that don't have the same love as games like Heroes of Might and Magic for the Game Boy Color. So, alright guys, stay safe wherever you are. Take care and have a good one.